Revelation 1577. From the 21st of August 1940. God's blessing to work. Good and bad spiritual support. The success of any work is always dependent on God's blessing, and God will bless the work if it is begun and completed in faith in Him and trust in Him. It is by no means to be assumed that human intelligence guarantees the success of a work. On the contrary, intelligence is also already the working of spiritual forces beyond, namely good forces, if the work was preceded by a God-believing thought, or also bad forces, if man in arrogance feels capable of mastering a difficult work alone. There are also often good spiritual forces at work without man consciously requesting God's blessing, namely, when man is not yet in the realm of knowledge, but otherwise thinks rightly and is of good disposition. Then, too, he receives the power from above to direct his thoughts upward and to make him conscious of God's blessing, so that he consciously strives for the connection with God and no longer begins any work without praying for God's blessing. Conversely, spiritual evil forces take possession of man, since his thinking corresponds more to those forces and the effects of these are accepted without resistance. And the consequence of such bad influence will be that man will always become more arrogant and conscious of his worth, that he believes to be able to cope with everything by his own strength and never thinks of asking God's blessing for a work. And therefore those spiritual forces are always active in every work, which correspond to the thinking of man. The success of a work will always depend on his innermost attitude towards God, because even if a work apparently brings earthly success, which was mastered without God's blessing, it will always only bring earthly success, but man through such work puts himself under the power of bad powers, that is, these take his thinking and his attitude more and more captive. They provide him with many earthly advantages, but drag down his soul and thus increase the distance from God. Nothing should be started without God. The earthly work should bring success to the soul. Then it will also be blessed in earthly relationship, and man will be able to fulfill difficult tasks with ease, because the good spiritual forces take care of this work and guarantee the success. Amen.